guys, this is Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah. Welcome back to my channel. So we're here for another one of our mass making sessions, and today we are up to week number 278 and we are making junk journal covers. So this has come quite timely because lots of people did request junk journal covers as the Missing Mojo Masterclass series. So yeah, this is why I hadn't done any covers. Right, okay, so what we're going to do, well, I had done a cover, but I did a different cover, perhaps I should correct myself in saying. So yeah, that's why I didn't do these types of covers. So what we're going to do today is just some basic junk journal covers. Now you can make these ahead of time. So what you're going to need if you want to craft along, you're going to need some envelopes. That's what I like to use as my covers generally. Now mine are bigger than A4 size, so I'm going to need to cut them down. So I'm just going to kind of like use a piece of paper as my template, but I'm just putting this here to show you the kind of size difference that there is. These ones also are those ones with the little, you know, foldy lines on the edge. Again, I'm going to probably cut those off because they're just going to be kind of additional bulk that I don't really need. So you're going to need some envelopes. You're going to need some fabrics because we're going to be doing fabric covers. Now, I've got lots of small pieces of fabric here, so we're going to use, you know, lots of these to do some patchwork covers and things. But we're also going to do a couple with, you know, full-size pieces of fabric just to show you a few different kind of like styles of covers. But you're going to absolutely love it once you've got these covers kind of ready done, because it's going to save you, again, a ton of time. So having all these things, you know, made ahead is, yeah, just such a sort of game changer, really. So I'm going to just move these to the side. You're also going to need some glue. Now, I'm going to be using my Anita's tacky glue. You can use Fabri-Tac and things like that for this. I just don't have any Fabri-Tac anymore, so I'm just using the Anita's tacky glue, but of course up to you, you know, to use whatever glue that you like. You can also stitch your covers and definitely stitch around your covers. Again, I'm not going to be doing that really because I like to try and keep these as accessible for most people as possible. So we're going to be using the glue. Aside from that, you might want to have like some tissues and things to kind of mop out any excess glue. Not really a glue spreader necessarily, you know, because obviously it's not kind of paper, it's not going to kind of just spread out. You might want to have an iron on hand if your fabric needs ironing and things. Again, you know, that's kind of optional really. I've just got mine there just in case I need it. But really this is kind of all you're going to need, and then you're going to need some scissors. Now, you can use your straight edge scissors, or if you've got some actual fabric kind of pinking shears, then you may like to use that. So up to you kind of how you do it really. So let's kind of get making one or two of these. So I'm just going to show you how I would kind of start. So because I don't really want the you know, creasy edges that I've got here, the folded edges, I'm going to just kind of like cut down both sides of my envelope. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take a very small slither off of one of the edges like this. Now this is what I would do generally, even if my envelopes are not the creased ones, you know, I would kind of obviously cut it down to size. Obviously this has got the added stage of I'm cutting both edges because I want to get rid of that you know, creased edge, if you see what I mean. If this were just a general envelope but it were just too big, I wouldn't need to cut both sides. So then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take it down roughly where I want it. Now I like to have my envelopes a bit bigger than my papers generally, because I think that makes it quite nice. You know, when you've got lace and things overhanging your pages, I think it's better to have my covers slightly bigger than the pages. That's kind of going to contain some of the lace and the frills. Again, that's optional, and I'm not saying that, you know, you have to do that. You maybe prefer your covers snug with the paper, in which case cut it exactly to the paper size. But for me, I quite like it like this. So I'm just leaving, I don't know how big that is, but maybe like 2mm every side. So, you know, 2mm on the top, 2mm on the bottom, 2 meters to the left, and 2 meters, not meters, not meters, 2mm either, you know, every single side. So let's take these and bin all of these bits and pieces. Okay, so I don't need that now. So now what I want to do is go around my envelope and obviously glue the whole thing down. So just taking my normal Anita's tacky glue. Now, if you've got like here, see I've got this like envelope seam, you might want to kind of like put some extra glue in there just to make sure it's really stuck, because although it has got the, you know, the glue from the manufacturer, sorry, I'm really struggling to speak, it might not be kind of strong enough. It, you know, it might just come apart. So just kind of like decide where you need to glue and where you don't. So I'm going right the way around, whoops, right the way around the whole thing. And then you might like to have a bit of glue in the middle as well. Now you can probably adapt what we're doing for paper. So if you wanted to do paper covers, you could probably adapt, you know, in place of the fabric, you could use paper. Personally, I favour fabric covers these days. Again, that's just kind of over time. I've decided that that's what I prefer best. I did say you didn't need a glue spreader, but actually I am going to use one here just to spread the glue out on my envelope. So this is the place where you may like to have a glue spreader. Okay, so, you know, just kind of like an old gift card or something like that. And then just going to mop out all the bits. Okay. So for the first one, what we're going to do, we're going to cover it with a whole piece, you know, a complete piece of fabric. So let me take in a bit of fabric. Now I've cut some fabrics ready, so I'm hoping that I've cut them big enough to be able to use. Yeah, okay. So I've got this gorgeous purpley colour. It's hard to see whether this has got a directional bit to it. I think it has. Okay, like that. Now I can just about feel beneath there where my envelope is, okay? So all I'm going to do is literally pop some glue around the edges. Now I'm going to show you two different you know, methods for using one whole piece of fabric, if you see what I mean. So this method is going to be the sort of neater one of the two. The other one is going to be the kind of like less neat, but no less nice, in my opinion. You know, I really like the other method too. In fact, I probably use that more often because actually, weirdly, oh, so sorry, hang on. Right, I'm just going to quickly show you this because that's my mum and dad at the door. My dad always rings on the door endlessly. So my daughter's run to get it, and I'll explain all of this in a minute. But I just wanted to get this stuck down before the glue dries. So there we go. Like that. Right, hold on. Oh, sorry about that. So, yeah. Okay, so then what you want to do is cut around. Now, as you can see, I've already mucked this up. Obviously, I got thrown out when the phone call came through. So let me just cut this down. In an ideal world, I wouldn't have mucked this up and I would have more fabric here around the edge. So I'm going to cut this down here. This is the kind of amount of fabric that, you know, ideally you want around every edge. So I would say like, I don't know, an inch and a half, something like that around the edge. So just cutting this down here. Okie dokie. Okay. And then once you've got all of your edges, you know, sort of like a good size, you then want to kind of like fold this in around all of your sides. Now, like I say, I have mucked this up here because obviously I got disturbed by the phone call and then, you know, wasn't obviously concentrating. I am going to struggle to neatly do this. Like there's, yeah, no other explanation for this or no other kind of justification, or, you know, I can't get around that. So I'm going to show you on this edge instead. So what you're going to want to do is fold this all in around the edges. Now, what I quite like to do is cut this in here so as you've got less bulk when you're bringing your corners up. So go into your corners and you're sort of doing like a mitre, but not quite, like that. And then you can glue those edges down. So if you can hear the chewing in the background, it's Bo. She's got a treat there. Okay, so like this. She's making a meal of chewing her treat, I'm afraid. Right, I'm just going to put a little bit onto the very edge of that fabric. Like that, okay? So then tuck this in like this. And then obviously where we've now trimmed in our corners, so I'm going to go on to this side to show you. So I'm going to just do the same here. Obviously I don't need to worry about the other corner because, like I say, I've mucked that one up anyway. But you're then going to tuck this in, and can you see straight away I haven't got all that fabric that would otherwise be bulking out, you know, bulking it all out. Yeah, so that's kind of like just a tip really of, you know, how to lessen your bulking your fabric out. So like that, and then along here, along the edge kind of part, okay? So folding that in like that. Okie dokie. Right, mop all your glue out. Like that. Now, if like me, you end up mucking yours up and have this sort of scenario, then really all you can do is kind of like try and fold it in as best you can. Now, I've got to be truthful, there's not really even a lot of, you know, or enough fabric here to even kind of like get that folded in. So it's a sort of, you know, do as good a job as you can with the mucked up edge. But I'm going to just take that up, fold that up there like that. You know, I really have left so little fabric, I can barely fold that over. So if you can see that. So in this kind of scenario, because it's such a small amount of fabric, even this is not really wanting to fold in. This all folded in neatly. When you've got so little fabric, it really doesn't want to fold over. So at that point, what you want to do is get like some bulldog clips. Oops. And then you can just hold the fabric down with the clips. That's just going to keep it glued down. So far from ideal, you know, wish I hadn't have mucked it up in the first place, but if you do, this is a sort of like bit of a remedy, I suppose, but yeah, you're better off not really doing that in the first place. So just go around here like that. Okay, so, and again, just a bit of glue right up to the edge parts of the fabric, okay? So folding that down like that. Okay, right. I mean, it's such a massive difference when you don't have enough fabric to when you do, because, you know, you can see that straight away, it folds down neatly, it holds in perfectly, you know. It's just kind of night and day difference about how it works and operates. Now at this point, this is kind of done. What I would then do is, in an ideal world, take that to the sewing machine and sew around the edge. Now I would probably sew it this way round like that, and then that's going to just kind of make sure everything's really, really secured. Then what I would do is, when I come to actually use this, I would either just put, you know, a single sheet of paper down, or you could collage down on there, you could put fabric down on there, you know, however you wanted. But basically you're going to cover up then all around the edges, so you're not going to see all these kind of jaggedy edges. So it looks really super neat, doesn't it? Super neat and tidy. So that's kind of style one. Okay, style two. So I'm just going to take in another envelope. Okay, so remember, we just trimmed off a tiny slither here, just to get rid of that, you know, folded over edge of the envelope. So like that. Then we're going to go, oops, just along this edge here, like that. Okay, and then we want to just take this edge here. Let's take that down like that. Okay. Like that. So this was just our basic getting our envelope to size, if you remember. Okay, taking these bits out. So first things first, we want to obviously glue the envelope down just like we did first time around. So again, just put the glue all around the edge like that. Oops, sorry if you can hear Bo now, she's now groaning. So again, kind of a bit of extra there where it's got the glued down sort of flap. And then just, you know, plenty of glue sort of around the central part. Just so your envelope's really nice and, you know, glued down together. Okay, press that down. Again, we used the little glue spreader to spread the glue out. Okay, like that. Okay, so this is option number 2. So again, we're using a full sheet of, or a full piece of fabric. So let's hope I've got a piece that's big enough here. So let's try this one. Okay, so I'm going to use this fabric here. I'm going to do it like this because hopefully we're going to have this as like the back piece. Okay, so what I want to do is just literally tear this down or cut it down roughly to the size. Now, I'm going to just take it here. Hopefully this is going to be terry type fabric. Yeah. Okay, I mean obviously I have torn it the other way, but sometimes they tear one way and not the other direction. You know, they have like a weave and they don't want to kind of go in the other direction. So we've torn that. Now, as you could see, it was still kind of like too big here, but I want to get rid of this kind of like liney type, you know, texty type part. So again, what we're going to do here, what's different to this one we had the very neat edges where we folded it all over and sort of, you know, tucked it all in, so making it look very neat and tidy. This time we're going to have it as a, what do you call this? Like a sort of overhanging type edge. So again, you don't want it overhanging too much, but just kind of a small amount. So I'm going to take it to about here. And again, we're going to just tear that down. Okay, oops, like that, straighten that out. And then here, whoops, we want to obviously then tear it down on the other direction. Let me just see. So hopefully I'm going to have this pattern on the back of the journal because I often don't really decorate the backs of the covers. So then you've got a nice little picture on the back. So again, you know, and we're just leaving here just like, oops, before when I said about I like the envelope to overhang the journal by sort of a couple of millimeters all round. Hopefully this is going to overhang then the cover a couple of millimeters, if you see what I mean. So that's just your piece of fabric then. Whoops, lay it down on the desk. And then all I want to do is just glue my envelope straight on to that piece of fabric. And then you've got the edge part all around there. So just take your envelope, obviously, put your glue right up to the edge as close as you can. Now, I will just mention, if you are going to put just paper on the inside rather than fabric or anything, then you might want to ensure that the part with all the glue, you know, the sort of joiny flap type part and all of that kind of thing, you might want to ensure that that is face down onto the fabric. Now, the reason why I say that is because obviously that's going to be, you know, the fabric will cover it more easily than the paper. So like this. Okie dokie. Okay. Right. Okay, so that is our you know, envelope there, and we are just going to then glue this straight down, hopefully leaving approximately like a couple of millimeters all around at some sort of evenish point like that. So again, just smoosh the whole thing down like that. Okay, turn it over, and then you can obviously smooth out any extra creases and things. Yeah, I mean, this fabric's gorgeous because, or works really nice because when I fold this in, the back, which I don't normally decorate, is going to have this really nice pattern on the back. So, you know, even though it's not decorated, it's got a really nice pattern there on the back. So yeah, really pleased how that's worked out. Okay, now the other thing that I will mention is, again, when I'm doing things like this, obviously it's glued down to the edges, but ideally I would then take this to the sewing machine and just stitch right around the very edge. So it's just an extra sort of safety measure, making sure that it's really glued down really well. Again, that's optional, but you know, that would be sort of what I would hopefully try and do. And then on here, I would again possibly put some paper down. Obviously now I wouldn't just put one sheet of paper down because you're going to have an overhang from the envelope. So I would probably collage this paper here, or I would possibly cover it with fabric on the inside, maybe in a collage design, something like that. So that's kind of option number 2 for your envelopes. And then the final option for doing a cover would be to collage on your fabric. So again, going to just take my envelope, take the slither off the edge where it's got the, you know, the little, you know, doubled over folded edge type bit, like that. Okay. And then we're going to just go around here by, you know, a millimetre or so. And again, also another thing to mention, it doesn't matter if it's not 100% straight, because the chances are you're going to be covering this anyway. You know, you're going to cover it with probably, well, obviously the fabric, and then, you know, you might cover it with like some lace and things like that hanging out over this. So, you know, you might not even really see the original kind of cuts. Okay, so just going to put this in here, and then again just take that down like by a millimetre or so down the bottom. Oh, sorry if you can hear that really noisy motorbike. Okay, so that's my envelope. Again, open it out, glue the whole thing down. So remember, we kind of like pay extra attention here to the little envelope flap, like that, and then right the way around the edge, like that. Okie dokie. Plenty of glue then all around, you know, filling in the body of the envelope. Okay. Okie dokie, right, plenty there. Glue this down. Like that. Okay. The glue. So again, what I'm going to do is, like we said before, try and aim to have like your, you know, the messy side of the envelope, i.e. with the glued kind of flap and all of that kind of stuff, as the fabric side. So we're going to keep it like this. Okay. And then what I've done, I have pre-cut like a bunch of little fabrics. Now I do have the fabric scrap packs in my shop on my website, so if you wanted to go over and check out any fabric kind of packs, then, you know, by all means do go over, oops, do go over and have a look. Yeah, so I can't remember whether you get 10 fabrics in those, but yeah, they're kind of on there if you wanted to have a look. So again, what you're going to do is literally just go round patchworking and collaging your fabric. So I've already cut my squares kind of like to size. Okay, so now at this point, I will just say, up to you really whether you coordinate this very much. Now, I tend to sort of think, well, actually, most of this is going to be covered, certainly on the front, you know, probably with a topper or something like that. So, you know, if you've got, like, say, you know, some bits of really nice fabric and some bits of not so nice fabric, then you might want to kind of like just make sure your really nice bits are more sort of like round the edges, like on what would be essentially the front cover, because they're going to sort of show more than the center. So that's kind of just something worth bearing in mind if you're going to be using a topper. Now, if you're not going to use a topper and maybe you're not really going to decorate the cover very much, then hey, your whole cover might, you know, might be very visible. But yeah, for me, I kind of think, well, actually, the chances are my cover's going to be probably, you know, like this section, there'd probably be a topper there. So if I was kind of running low on fabric or anything like that, I might choose to then put, you know, the not such nice fabric in that centre part rather than my favourite fabrics. So, you know, just a little bit of a tip there. So, and again, just kind of glue all of this down. Like that. Okay. Yeah, you're going to love having like loads of covers done because they will really save you a whole bunch of time. And again, I will try and do some extra covers and list them also on my shop. So yeah, I know that I haven't sold any for a while. You know, I haven't had any for a while to put in there, and I have had lots of people saying, oh, I wish you'd put the covers in and the toppers. Unfortunately, I'm running low on toppers myself at the moment, and I have been running low on covers. So I will try and do some extras and put some into my shop by the end of this week. I'll try and have them in there. So I will try and perhaps put some on there, you know, even today. I'll see how I get on. Okay, and it's quite nice to sort of mix your fabrics up quite a bit, so don't kind of like worry too much. Like here, obviously it's not really going. I mean, I could just cut that yellow off, but yeah, something like that, you know, looks quite nice. And then just mix them in, so like that. Okay, bit of extra here. And then, you know, I could mix in some of this, for example, which was obviously what we used just now, you know, when we did that whole cover. Maybe something like that there. Okay. Again, maybe put some extra glue there. Like that. Okie dokie. I mean, I'm sure that you probably get the, you know, get the gist really. So yeah, probably I could probably stop talking you through now. I will just give you some tips, you know, as and when I think of them. But yeah, we'll just kind of get on and just kind of try and mass make a few of these. I will just take that yellow off. Like I say, I mean, I might not get many of these done now because I've probably been talking you through the steps for quite a while. But yeah, we'll just kind of relax now and have a mass making session. So I don't know how long I have been filming for, but yeah, probably quite a while, just showing you the basics. So like I say, I'll just kind of fill you in as and when I think of things as we come to them. So there we go. Yeah, so I hope everybody's week has started out well. You know, for anyone who watches my channel, you'll know that I generally film these videos on a Monday to go up for you guys on the Tuesday. I have to say, I'm actually filming this on the Sunday this week. Let me just move my camera slightly. Oops. Hold on. Oh, sorry about that. Right, hopefully this is a bit better. Yeah, anyway, so I'm filming this actually on the Sunday rather than the Monday like I normally would. So yeah, that was my mum and dad who just phoned, and I ended up going out with them with my daughter, and we just went and grabbed a McDonald's. So I didn't have anything to eat, but my daughter did and they did. I just had a hot chocolate. So yeah, so I'm actually filming this on the Sunday. Now, filming it really on the Sunday because I'm going to be busy tomorrow, and yeah, I might not be able to kind of like concentrate in the morning before I kind of like have to go and do what I've got to do in the afternoon. So I thought I would come along and quickly film it today instead. So hence you could probably hear my daughter like earlier on just on the phone and things to her friends. I mean, she's still here, obviously, now that we've come back, but yeah, she must not be on the phone now, because I can't hear her on the phone now to her friends, but yeah, she was on the phone earlier on. Yeah, so I'm... Well, I'll say in a minute what I'm doing this afternoon while I'm kind of filming, but yeah, so what have I been up to? Well, what have I been up to? Oh, probably not much, to be honest. Let's be honest, not a lot. Just trying to think, really. What have I been watching? Have I been watching anything? Oh, I did watch something the other day that I thought, oh, I must mention that, and now I can't think for the life of me what it was. Oh, what was it? Oh, I actually can't remember. I've gone completely blank. Can't think. Oh, no idea. But last night I watched something with Keira Knightley. Now, what was that called? It was a film on Netflix, new thing. It was a thriller. Oh gosh, what was it called? Oh, Passenger Number 10. No, not Passenger Number 10. Cabin Number 10. So yeah, it was a bit of a thriller. Started out a little bit kind of weak, and I thought, oh, this is going to be rubbish. Anyway, it's actually really good. So yeah, quite enjoyed that. It's a new film on there. I feel like there were quite a few people that I recognised, but maybe actually only one other person other than Keira Knightley. But anyway, oh no, there were a couple of people. It had, you know, Mike from Neighbours. Yeah, he was in it. I mean, he's been in quite a few things over the years, hasn't he? But yeah, he was in it. I can't think who were the other people in it. I don't know. But anyway, that was quite good. So yeah, kind of would recommend that probably. Just wondering whether I might have some of this velvet on here somewhere. So I'm just going to cut that a little bit straighter. Yeah, so I quite enjoyed that. And that's probably the extent of what I've seen all week that was really good. Went and watched that film Smashing Machine with my son on Wednesday. So I talked about this before, and I was really quite looking forward to it coming out. I'd seen the trailer, obviously, yeah, and it looked really good. So I was looking forward to that. Well, I did quite enjoy it. I hadn't heard of the guy who it was about. His name was Mark Kerr. Mark Kerr and Mark somebody else. I can't think who the other one was, but anyway. So yeah, we went and watched that on Wednesday. We did quite enjoy it. So, I mean, I would say you'd probably have to be someone who quite likes those kind of like fighty type films. It wasn't boxing, but it was that type of thing. So if you don't really like the whole boxing type movies, then yeah, you probably wouldn't really enjoy it. But if you do quite like a sort of boxing type movie, it wasn't boxing. I must keep stressing that. It wasn't boxing. But yeah, if you're quite sort of, you know, quite partial to those types of films, then you'd probably quite enjoy it. Yeah, so anyway, we went and watched that on Wednesday. It was good. Wow, it was The Rock who was in it. Oh my gosh, he looked unrecognisable. I knew he was in it. I didn't realise he was playing the main character. And it took a few minutes of watching it that then I said to my son, is that The Rock? And he said no. He was like, no. And then we watched it for a few more minutes, and I said, that is The Rock. Oh my goodness, look at him. He's like transformed. So yeah, he really like looked, wow, incredible. You know, like, I'm not saying incredible as in like, wow, really great. But yeah, incredible as in, wow, you couldn't actually recognise that it was him. I did Google it after we got home, and it said he had to spend two hours, I think it said, in makeup to get ready for the shooting every day. So yeah, kind of like loads of, he must have had like some sort of prosthetic bits like stuck on him, because he had these like cauliflower ear things and stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, he had a lot of kind of transformation type bits stuck on him. But yeah, so anyway, we really enjoyed that. Oh, and the other person who was in it was Emily Blunt, and of course she's the Devil Wears Prada person. She was really good in it. So yeah, and then at the end it had a bit where, you know, like the real Mark Kerr, he did like a sort of, just, I'm not saying like cameo appearance exactly, because he wasn't like in it as such, but yeah, just made an appearance anyway. Yeah, so we really enjoyed that film, and we'd been looking forward to that for a while. So yeah, really enjoyed that. I don't think there's anything else really coming on that we saw during the trailers that we thought, oh, can't wait for that. So yeah, we're probably in a bit of a dry spell again with the cinema, so it's really boring, you know. I wish some new stuff would come out. I mean, probably the cinema's never going to be what it used to be, I suppose, ever again, but it's such a shame. So yeah, that's kind of it really. Oh, so yeah, this afternoon, not this afternoon, but this afternoon to you guys, obviously for me it's tomorrow because I'm filming now on the Sunday. So my ex-husband, who, ongoing kind of sagas with him really. So, you know, obviously he moved out like, you know, nearly 5 years ago, actually. It was like 5 years, or it will be 5 years in January. Well, he's still, you know, not being, you know, particularly nice, it's got to be said. And yeah, he's just like stopped paying his child maintenance, you know, that obviously I go through like the child maintenance service and all of that kind of thing. Well, I go through them now since he stopped paying it, but he stopped paying it back in April. And, you know, obviously he should still be paying it. And, you know, when I got my mortgage and things, once everything was finally sorted out between us, you know, they took his child maintenance into account as part of my income, like to get my mortgage. So, you know, it's quite a sort of important part of my income kind of thing. Anyway, he stopped paying it, and yeah, there's no explanation or anything. He's just ignoring the child maintenance people, and yeah, I'm just going to quickly explain. So where I've got around the edges, if it's not quite kind of marrying up, I can just go around and trim it down. And I'm just going to like take it like that. So it is a bit sort of jaggedy and wonky, but that's fine because actually overall it looks okay. Now at this point, what I would do is I would take it to the sewing machine. I'd stitch first of all right around the edge, like I said about doing with the other two pieces of paper, or, you know, the other two covers. Stitch right around the edge. And then what I would also do is stitch around my pieces of fabric. So I would stitch down there, I'd stitch round this complete piece, I'd stitch here, you know, stitch here, here, here. So anywhere where I haven't quite managed to get the glue to kind of like go down, it would then be caught with the stitching. Now when you turn it over, obviously you'd have a lot of the stitching marks here on the reverse side. But when I come to actually use this as a journal, or, you know, as a journal cover, I would then be covering this either with paper or with fabric. I would probably collage this because, again, we've got that situation where, you know, a piece of paper is not going to quite take up the entire envelope. So I'd probably collage some paper. And then that would cover up all of the jaggedy stitching that I would have going on this side. So that's kind of how I would get around that. Obviously, if you don't want to sew, or you don't have a sewing machine, then basically you might want to go around at this point and just touch up any bits that aren't quite glued down right to the edges. That would be kind of the main thing that I would kind of say, really, if you're doing a sort of patchworky type piece like this. So, that's kind of my only note really to kind of say about the patchworky things. So that being said, I'm just going to take another couple of envelopes. Now, I don't know whether I will have time to actually do another 2, but I'm going to try. Let's be a bit ambitious. So I'm just going to take 2 envelopes, obviously going to try and mass do these, so like assembly line style. Oh, that's actually quite thick. I thought, oh, I'll cut them together, but actually they're a bit too thick. I'm going wonky already. So yeah, I'm going to have to cut them down one at a time. So I'll do these kind of assembly line style, as in, the same steps at the same time. But it might be that, I only actually get to complete one more cover. So we shall kind of see, but let's just do that. So at least then I have another cover ready to make, so that I can then put some in my shop. So yeah, okay. And I'll try and just continue on after the video and make some covers, and then I can actually put them in the shop by the time this video goes up. So okay. Oh, and at this point, sorry, just talking of my shop, is the folio and the journal, they are still actually available. So, if you kind of saw the flip throughs yesterday, they are still for sale in my shop on my website, as of this point. So, yeah, if you were interested in those, they're still available at this point. Anyway, so what was I saying? So, yeah, anyway, he just stopped paying the child maintenance. So the child maintenance are obviously trying to get the money, back, which now sits at quite a lot in arrears. Plus obviously it's ongoing because every month his payment's missed, and he's not making the payment. So it's obviously been, quite stressful, and yeah, he kind of ignores everybody, like, ignores my daughter if ever she messages him, like when she was going back to school, for example, she had to get her school uniform, and she asked, could he contribute to her school uniform and things, because of course I don't have any contact with him, he's blocked me on everything anyway. Not that I particularly have any desire to have contact with him anyway, but it would be handy to be just normal people and be able to just communicate over just normal things. Anyway, so I happened to message somebody who was like a mutual friend of ours. We met working together, like obviously years ago, like 25 years ago, or whenever it was that we met, longer than that now. And, so we had some mutual friends, obviously, when we did work together. And one of these ladies, I know that she's still in contact with him. Lovely lady. So I messaged her and just said, I'm so sorry, to put you on the spot like this, but, is there any possibility that you'd be able to just like have a word with my husband, because he just literally ignores me, he ignores my daughter, but he's not paying his child maintenance, and it's very stressful and things, and anyway, cut a long story short, they no longer work at like the same like office basically. Lots of people work from home and things like that. So she obviously doesn't really see him kind of on a daily basis like she perhaps would have done, 10 years ago. But, they did keep in touch kind of quite a bit, via email, and kind of met up and things, And, yeah, she just said, oh, I would love to help you, but unfortunately, he just doesn't respond to my emails either, which is really annoying. So, but she said to me, she said, wow, really sorry to hear this. Like, have you thought about just popping over to like, his house and just saying what the heck's going on, And the funny thing was, I said to her, do I would, but his sort of, behaviour, I mean, he would be likely to kind of like say I was harassing him, and call the police. Anyway, I should have listened to my own words, really. So, yeah, basically, I happened to go to where he lived, the town where he lives, in August, because I was going shopping, and I don't go there very often. So I said to my daughter, oh, while we're this way, I'm going to pop into your dad's and just find out what's going on. So we literally just stopped in the next road, because they like changed the road layout, so I couldn't actually drive down his road from the end I was at. It was like a one-way. So we stopped in the next road, and I said to her, I'm just going to jump out and quickly go around. I said, I'll only be 5 minutes. And as I got out of the car, he just happened to be walking from the opposite direction. So I put my iPad on to record, and I know this sounds really crazy. I mean, for a start, crazy because I never use my phone. I always use my iPad. Like, wow, I just can't really see my keys and stuff on my phone. So, I just find it easier to use my iPad. Anyway, got my iPad, press record, because, just history tells me I'm best off recording, really. And, yeah, anyway, started recording. Just said to him, look, not here for any kind of like trouble or anything like that, but, obviously I do need to know what's going on with the whole child maintenance. Why aren't you paying this? Your daughter's like really quite upset. She's in the car. She's upset right now. What's going on, kind of thing. Now, he just kind of like responded with, go away, go away. That was all he would say, go away. So was clearly getting nowhere fast with that one. So obviously I'm recording this, and said, look, I'm not here to cause trouble, but I do need to know, like, is this a glitch? Is this a permanent thing? What's going on? So literally he just wouldn't say anything other than go away. He, was getting more and more angry and started walking in the opposite direction. So I walked with him, kind of like, saying, look, really need to know this. It's causing a lot of problems, with our kind of like planning of our day-to-day life and things like this, and I think actually I'm within my rights to kind of ask you what's going on and find out why you're not paying it. Why do you think it's okay for you to not pay? All of these things. Anyway, he went into his mum's house, who happens to live around the corner, and obviously shut the door in my face. I obviously, kind of still was through the letterbox, like said, was still saying, look, I just need to know, is this a temporary thing? Is this permanent? Blah, blah, blah. I was there for a total of 13 minutes, including the whole kind of like speaking to the letterbox, which I also still recorded. And, yeah, anyway, that was kind of it. Didn't really think any more of it other than, wow, what a disappointment, like that you can be married to somebody for 22 years and that's how it ends up, that literally you can't actually even contact that person to find out what's going on about your children, your joint children. And, yeah, anyway, lo and behold, what I had actually said to my friend about the whole, well, I would do, but he'll probably, call the police. Yep, you guessed it. So I then got a letter from the police inviting me in for an interview. It doesn't say what it's about, but I haven't even been in that city for months and months other than that one occasion. So it doesn't take a sort of genius to work it out, really, that it presumably is about that. I hope I don't get myself into trouble talking about it here on my channel, to be honest. Anyway, so, yep, this afternoon, or, tomorrow afternoon for me, this afternoon for you guys, that's where I'm going. I'm going for a police interview, presumably about that. I mean, thank goodness I have the entire interaction on my iPad as a recording, because otherwise, how would I actually prove that, I really said very little and was there for only literally, a very short period of time? I don't know. But yeah, flabbergasting, to be perfectly honest. It's a huge waste of my time. It's a huge waste of police time. It's a huge waste of everyone's time. I don't know quite what story that he's concocted, you know, presumably must have said something reasonably significant, because otherwise surely the police would just say, get a grip, you know, there's no need to actually pull this lady in for anything at all. Yeah, anyway, so that's what I'm doing this afternoon. Absolutely just flabbergasting, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, I thought I'd best film today, i.e. the day before, because in the morning I might be, you know, in a bit of a state and not really able to concentrate much to be able to do this mass making video. So yeah, hence I'm filming now. But wow, I can't quite believe that, you know, kind of like you can be married to somebody for that length of time and for things to deteriorate to that level, that, you know, even something like, you know, that, let's be honest, he's kind of got an obligation to do as kind of joint parent and all the rest of it, and, you know, as dictated to by the child maintenance service of, you know, they've set the amount that he should pay and everything else. He's not paying it, and, you know, yet he's obviously deemed it that I can't even go round to find out why he's not paying it. I just find it really, really, you know, shocking and awful, really, that things can get to such a sort of level that, you know, the communication is so poor, I suppose would be the, yeah, so poor, to be honest. I mean, it's just shocking, isn't it? So anyway, so that's what I'm doing this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon for me. So yeah, we shall see what happens from that. Obviously, I put it through ChatGPT because, you know, obviously I've never been invited in for a police interview before. I didn't know quite, you know, what the protocol is, what to expect or anything else. So put it in through ChatGPT. What should I say? Obviously it had said, did I want the duty solicitor present? So I said I did, because ChatGPT recommended that I did. So we shall see what happens from that. But yeah, it's just, yeah, very, very shocking. And, you know, really disappointing. I mean, you know, like I say, he moved out 5 years ago, January. Our divorce went through 4 years ago in December. Obviously, we had a very nasty divorce, but finally got everything sorted out, you know, last year. The sort of middle of last year, you know, all the finances were finally sorted out and everything. And I thought we could just get on with our lives now, really not have to have anything, let's be honest, much to do with each other, which, you know, clearly that would suit both parties. But no, it still goes on. So yeah, just anyway, huge waste of everybody's time really this afternoon. So, well, tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, all just very disappointing, to be honest. But anyway, we shall see what happens. Now, do I want to put, like I say, I mean, I hope that I'm not going to get into trouble for actually talking about it on here now. That will probably be the next thing, is probably be arrested for having discussed it on here. But, you know, I mean, I haven't said anything that's not true, and I haven't obviously, you know, divulged anybody's names or anything like that. So hopefully it will be fine. But yeah, just, you know, unbelievable, to be honest, unbelievable. But yeah, so yeah, hence anyway I'm filming on a Sunday, which I would never normally do. Right, there we go. Okay, but hey, the good news is we've done covers, which, you know, I needed to replenish my stocks, so this is really great because now I'm going to have some more covers done. And yeah, hopefully this will kind of inspire some of you guys. Right, I'm just mixing some of these things up, thinking which colours to put on this. I'm not loving those. But yeah, I do quite like this there, which again, weird, you know, shouldn't really go. But actually, I do quite like it. So just going to put this one down here. And don't forget, like I say, I will probably go round and actually stitch this. Well, I will go round and stitch this. So, you know, anywhere where the edges aren't quite sort of glued down, they will be stitched. So just put that down there. Oops, I'm going to pull him down a bit because otherwise I might end up cutting his face off. Okay. go. I cannot believe that we're actually kind of like halfway through November already. It's like, wow. It's going to be Christmas soon, isn't it? So I haven't started my Christmas kit yet. I'm still haven't quite decided on a theme for it or anything. So if you've got any ideas or suggestions for Christmas themes, you know, then do let me know. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's probably why I'm a little bit kind of rambly and, you know, scatty today. Because obviously these things do take their toll on you, you know, your mental health, because you're, well, you know, well, let's be honest, you know, I'm obviously a bit nervous and don't know what to expect. And it's obviously taken up my time again. And that's, let's be honest, probably what he's after, is wasting a whole bunch of my time, because he knows that if I'm not working, I'm not being paid, you know, I'm not earning any money. And, yeah, he just wants to, you know, waste my time and, you know, make me feel stressed and all of that kind of stuff. But it's just very sad. I mean, I know that lots of you have commented in the, you know, in the past that you've had similar sort of experiences with ex-husbands and things like that. I mean, I just find it really, you know, very sad actually that, you know, what goes from being, you know, I mean, at the time I thought he was kind of like my soulmate, you know, my kind of best friend and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, for it to deteriorate to the level it has, I just think, wow, it's kind of like shocking. And, yeah, didn't have to be like that at all, you know. And why do people want things to be like that is just baffling to me. You know, why would anyone want things to be, you know, nasty when they don't need to be? I don't know. I just find that really surprising, to be honest. But anyway, you know, there's no sort of telling. I mean, you can't sort of like account for somebody else's behaviour, can you? And yeah. Anyway, probably done what they would call like, you know, too much information here. Probably shared way more than I should have done, but you know, obviously that's dominating my thoughts a little bit. And, you know, I like to be transparent and talk about what's going on in my life. And obviously that's something that's going on in my life. So, yeah. I mean, you know, my son said to me, "Oh, just ignore it, Mum, you know, because you didn't do anything wrong." And my daughter said to me, "Oh, Mum, if they put you in prison, I'm coming with you because I was there and saw that you did nothing wrong." So, yeah, they're being absolutely lovely. But, yeah, my son said, "Oh, just don't go, Mum. You know, why are you even bothering?" But I said to him, you know, they said on there that if I didn't go, they would put a warrant out for my arrest. I mean, wow. Can you believe that? You could be arrested for literally just trying to speak to your ex-husband, trying to find out why he's not paying his child maintenance. Wow. I mean, that's just literally shocking, isn't it? That, you know, just harmless interacting with someone who you were married to for 22 years. And just kind of to say, that's the first time I've actually tried to contact him. You know, because, I mean, he's blocked me on everything. And hey, like I say, that's fine by me, because actually on the whole, you know, we don't need to have contact or anything. And clearly, you know, clearly we don't get on. So there's no need to or point contacting one another. So, wow, that's the first contact I've tried to make in the whole 5 years, really. Other than obviously when we were properly going through this sort of financial, you know, dispute kind of thing that, of course, was dragged out and, you know, horrendous as well. So, yeah, this is the first time that I've actually tried to even make contact. And, wow, like, yeah, just, wow. It literally beggars belief. I just think, gosh, I cannot quite believe that you can be married to someone for all those years and that just trying to contact them to find out why they're not paying an amount of money, or any money that they should have been paying, you know, by law, that you know, any sane person, you know, our mutual friend, she said, oh, have you thought about going around to his house and asking, you know, what the heck's going on, kind of thing. You know, something which a sane, normal person would do can get you into hot water like this. It's very troubling, to be honest, and very, well, quite scary, actually. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to be in when my daughter gets home from school or anything, you know. So I've had to say to her, you know, I won't be here when you get in from school. You know, I don't know how long I'll be. And just that in itself, pretty shocking, you know. Because, oh, yeah, because, you know, fancy that. Just not even being there when she gets in from school for such a ridiculous purpose, you know. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I'll let you know next week how it goes on, unless of course I'm in prison, or, you know, maybe I'm not allowed to talk about it. You know, maybe I'll find that out tomorrow and find that really I've been very naughty by talking about this. I don't know. That will probably be the next thing I'll be in trouble for. You know, I shouldn't have mentioned any of this, but anyway, like I say, I don't think I've done anything wrong, but who knows. You know, I mean, he's also, on Friday, unbelievably, took me to court because he paid for my son whilst he was an apprentice, which, you know, I looked up and the child maintenance had said was full-time training. And he's now trying to dispute that he shouldn't have paid for my son whilst he was on his apprenticeship, which was just 1 year. But, you know, he paid, and then he obviously turned 18, so he no longer paid anyway. So he's trying to get back the money that he paid for my son during that 1 year, which obviously he's got those big arrears sat with the child maintenance service that they are trying to get back from him. And the amount that he paid for my son is something like, oh, I don't know, 15% or something of the amount that he owes me now in arrears, but he's taken me to court. So yeah, unbelievable, to be honest. But anyway, that was my day on Friday. So yeah, had a bit of a rubbish week, I'm afraid. Right, okay, I'm not going to go on about this anymore because it's all very depressing. Right, that's that cover. Now, I don't know how long I've been filming for, but probably quite a while now. So I'm just going to quickly tidy this up just to kind of like, you know, show you how it will look tidied up. So, yep, like that. I mean, literally, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just so it's tidier. Obviously, the bottom, I just need to tidy up now. I'm going to do it from this side so that I can actually see, make sure I'm not cutting into the actual envelope itself. So, like that, okay. And then here, just trim down at the front. Well, this might not be the front, this could be the back for all I know, but anyway, trim down there, just trim down here now. The front's looking a little bit big, and then just trim down just this bit, okay? So, you know, we've just kind of leveled it off, really. Oops, that one's... Okay, right. So I would do exactly the same as what I said with that other patchwork one. Is I would now go round on the sewing machine. I'd stitch right round the edge, probably with just a straight stitch, to be honest. And then either with a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch, although to be honest, often I'm not great with a zigzag stitch. So, you know, I'd see how I get on. Round all the kind of edges that look like they could be potential places for where it could lift. So, you know, just kind of, yeah, around all those edges. And then that's it. And then again, what you're going to have is under here, you're going to have the, you know, jiggedy jaggedy stitching. But again, I would then either collage this with paper, or I'd collage it with fabric when I came to use it, or, you know, possibly just a single piece of fabric. And that would be that. Now, the other thing to just mention, obviously, where I've got any bits that, you know, perhaps don't match particularly well or anything like that, I did say, didn't I, that, you know, I would probably then put a topper on here. So when I came to use it, you know, I'd perhaps use a topper. So, I mean, I don't have a topper here to show you, but let's just say, for example, that's not ideal actually, because that's the same colour. It's not going to stand out much. But yeah, let's just say I had this. Let's just say. So imagine this is folded in half. So that's all that's going to be visible on the front cover. This potential topper, let's just take, I'm not saying this, but you know, that could be your topper. And so then all you're going to actually have visible is this kind of edge part of the collage. So, you know, would look super, super cute. And then, of course, you could decorate it up. You could put some bits of lace and things just coming out maybe in odd places, or, you know, things like that, and build up from there. And straight away, that's such a pretty cover then, isn't it? So, you know, really going to make your journals really super quick and easy to, you know, to come together. So yeah, I hope that you feel inspired. I hope this has helped you. I know that, like I say, lots of people had said they wanted to see covers in the masterclass, which obviously we've done a couple of different types now, because we did do the hardcover of the Alter book in the Missing Mojo masterclass, and now we've obviously done these. Hopefully you've got some ideas with kind of how you would build it up then by, you know, using a topper and things, maybe put some lace and things like that. So yeah, hope you found this helpful, and obviously I've done abysmally. We've only done 4 here, but yep, I will try and obviously do a couple more, and like I say, I'll try and have some listed in my shop, hopefully when this video actually goes up. So yeah, let me know what you think, let me know how many you managed to do, and yep, thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day. And yep, really appreciate a big thumbs up to this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate you subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks then. Bye.